Thank you for joining the 3.6 training webinar. My name is Inbar Ries and I'm the VP Product of SAI. I'm responsible for the Hyver platform and I will be the host for today. It is very excited to see that many of our customers joined the session on the platform. SAI has decided to build a new process in which we will perform a training session on every release to make sure that you're aware of the value that the new release brings, and also to give you a platform to ask questions about the new features and also raise questions and feedback and also ideas during the session. Please use that platform and today's session to ask as many questions as you would like. I will be the only one who can see your question, and during the session I'm going to read that question to the team and also answer the questions without revealing the source of the question. So feel free to ask as many questions as you would like using the GoToMeeting. In our training session today, we're going to cover a larger scope than 3.6 since this is the first time that we are doing this session, and I would like to highlight important features within that session. I will show you how 3.6 and more help optimize your mitigation journey. The reason that I personally like to call it a journey, since this is a never-ending process in which we scoping our activity, reveal assets, reveal new attack routes. You and your amazing team are working very hard in order to prioritize and remediate based on the prioritization that was provided by Hyver, manage it, but in parallel, your organization never stands still, and therefore new assets are going to be added, new applications, and new configurations, and therefore the attack surface is going to be changed, and we're going to reveal much more attack routes and share with you more assets. In addition, of course, you're working with additional teams within your organization, and therefore you would like to share the information with them. So today we are going to show also 4 different ways to share the information with the team using integration with ServiceNow, email notification, exports, and so on. Last but not least, it's very important to quantify the exposure of the organization and share it with the management in order to convince them regarding new resources and new budget, and they will understand the situation of the organization. Right now, we are in the end of July. We are very near the period of budgets and resources, and this can really help you convince them about the need for the next year. So let's start with the activity scoping. When you start to work with SAI, and along the way, this is not a one-time activity, you need to define with us the threats that you would like to cover. It can be an external attacker that starts from the internet without prior information, an insider with more privilege, with less privilege, vendor, third party, and so on. This is something that we're going to check it over and over and review it with you. In addition, we would like to include within the platform your business asset. You're the expert of your organization, and you know exactly which business asset you would like to protect and what is the importance to the organization, and also how much it's going to cost the organization in case of a breach. And we will take it from there when we're building their risk platform. Last but not least, it is very important when we start a specific engagement that you will define with us what is the scope and what is out of scope during that specific engagement. It is very important to follow that procedure because sometimes you have areas and domains and IPs which are very sensitive, which belongs to legacy areas that you don't want us to attack. And basically, via the platform, you have the options to inform us where you want us to put the focus and what you don't want us to touch. After we define the scoping of the activity, we start to reveal assets. We would like to show you how an attacker view your organization. And when I'm talking about an attacker view your organization from outside, from the perimeter, cloud, and within the organization. So within Hyver platform, you're going to see an engagement, okay? This is an automatic asset discovery that runs once a month and cover all the new and modified assets. What do I mean by new and modified assets? Of course, when we reveal new assets, this is very clear, we're going to introduce it within the system. But sometimes assets are being changed. For example, let's say that you have a domain without DMARC and SPF configured correctly, and now you change it. The information will reflect the new data. Or in the past, you had service without CVEs, but unfortunately, few CVEs were reported on the products installed on that specific service. And now you have CVEs on that specific service. So basically, this activity that runs automatic once a month, we're going to show you if you have new assets, all kinds of types, but also will reflect changes that currently happening to assets that you're already aware of. The second thing that we're going to provide you are new assets that we reveal as part of specific activities when we are doing the engagement and we're assessing the organization. Our team is going to add additional assets that we reveal in additional ways, and those will be introduced into the platform as well and going to be presented in that specific view. Last but not least, and this is a new capability as part of 3.6, we give you the options to import assets that you are aware of and reveal during your activity in order that you will have a single place to see all the assets. And I will show you in 1 second how you can do that. So basically, while using all those 3 methods, you're going to have a very clear view of how an attacker view your organization from multiple angles. And you will see that basically each line here is, or combinations of assets, can be a lead for an attack. Let's take this for an example. As you can see, you have the asset view and you have the import asset. Here, I'm going to add it to engagement. I'm going to select the type of assets that I would like to import. It can be each one of those. For the sake of the example, I'm going to select domain, okay? Now it can be drag and drop, or I can select a specific file. Here, I need to say if the first line refers to header or the first line is asset. In 1 second, I will show you that we can also save the mapping. If you're about to import assets from a single source over and over again, we don't want you to map the columns over and over again, and we will allow you to save a template and reuse it each time you import a specific template. Here, per each one of the assets type, we also provide you an empty template. You can click on that and it will download, okay, and you can open it and see exactly which type of information we are looking for if you are building your own CSV file. Pay attention that this file is different per asset type. Here I'm going to click next. Here you can see all on the upper side, you can see all the columns which available within my CSV file. On the bottom, you can see all the files all the attributes that Hyver supports. As you can see, only domain is mandatory. All I need to do right now is to start and drag and drop and map between the columns available in my CSV file and Hyver fields. Let's take, for example, importance level is top level, MS records, parent domain, SPF, country that comes from the second emails, organization, status. Here, as you can see, I took the importance levels into the wrong place, so I can click on the trash can and take it back to the right place. Okay, and here as well, I made a mistake. I can do that again and take it into the right place. Right now, I'm happy with the mapping. I will add the country as well. I'm happy with the mapping. All I need to do is click. There is a progress bar, and the system told me that 4 assets were successfully imported and 3 were created, and 1 was already available, so the information was updated based on my last import. Here, I can decide to save the mapping and give it a name, any name that I would like, okay? And I can see also the imported assets, all the assets that I created. Let's take, for example, the creation date. Okay, and I can see all those domains were imported by me during this is the second session, so you can see here even more domains. But those are all the domains that were imported by me using the CSV, and all the information available over here. And as you can see, since I used my personal account, you can see who created it, and when it was modified, by who it was modified. Just a second, there is also the creation date, which is not the basic field. You can also see the creation date, created by, modified date, modified by the way, if you would like, you can also drag the columns to change the order. So all the information will be available, and you can enjoy the same functionality as you have today of adding tags, importance, and so on. So here our motivation that using all the methods together, you will get a very clear picture of which assets an attacker can view while doing an activity on your organization. And when I'm saying doing an activity, I'm doing a reconnaissance and gathering all the intelligence that he can know about your organization, or when we are simulating a real attacker that gets into your organization, or when you are doing an activity, for example, an internal red teaming or an internal activity with the security team, and you would like to include also additional assets that you saw during your activity. Since right now I'm using a user and not an administrator, the capabilities are limited. For example, right now in my permission, since I'm a user, I cannot see the Ries dashboard. And this is something that we would like to continue and invest on, is the permissions. We are aware that not all the users can see everything. And since I'm a user that can view only a single engagement and not all the engagements available within that company, I cannot see all the findings available in the full graph. And in 1 second, I will show you the full graph. You will see that right now, based on my permissions, I can see only findings related to a single engagement that I have permission on, and not all the engagements available for that specific customer. So after you review the graph and follow SAI recommendation using our advanced algorithm, you want to follow with your team and make sure that they are processing and fixing findings and remediation assets and fixing remediation assets. And therefore, we are going to jump into the findings view. Per each one of the findings, you're going to get an arrow, and within that arrow, you're going to get all the affected assets that we saw during our activity. And when you're clicking on the right side, when you're clicking on the one of the remediation assets, you can see in the right side, in the right pane, information about that specific asset. And here you can see that we performed a consolidation, okay, of all the CVEs available on that specific product. I know that in other products, sometimes you get an entry per CVE. Since in one activity, in one upgrade of that specific product, you are about to close all those CVEs, the fact that we are providing you all the information together will also help you to select the right version that you would like to upgrade to. Sometimes you will see here on the right pane different CVEs covered by different versions. And the fact that you can see everything in one glance, you can decide to which versions to upgrade. And in one transactions, you're going to solve that specific asset. Here you can also, of course, manage the owner, manage the status. For example, I can say that those three are going to be covered by one of the team members, Karen, and this one is already in progress, and update that specific remediation assets. If a remediation asset turns into pending verification, SAI is going to get notification and we are going to check it. Sometimes while you're working with your team, okay, you can see additional affected assets from the same finding. And here in 3.6, we give you the options to add additional affected assets that you saw. Let's take, for example, SQL injection, okay? Since I haven't checked all the applications available within your organization, maybe you performed additional activity, okay? And you revealed additional applications. So all you need to do is click on the three dots, import remediations from CSV. Here you will see that the flow is very similar to the import of assets. Why? Because we would like that if you learned already how to use the import assets, using the import remediation will be no-brainer since you know the concept. So here I'm going to select the URL. I'm going again to check the CSV. Again, I can drop it, same concept. I need to mark if the headers are available or the first line is an asset. I can use a template. There is always template that you can download. Here, all I need to do is to drag and drop all the things very easily. Import remediation. The system told me that all the remediation entered with success. I can always go and see the remediation, and now you can see that I have much more URLs available as part of the SQL injections. I know that sometimes you are working with external teams. For example, let's say all those applications were developed by a vendor and you don't want to give him an access to Hyver. You just want to give him a very detailed list of all the applications and all the pages that you need to take care of when it comes to SQL injection. So here, this is the first way to share information with additional teams or partners or vendors, all you need to do, okay, is mark the specific finding and click Export Remediation Assets, okay? By clicking on that, you will see here a progress and a file will be created. We are creating a single file per finding. Okay, so here you can see all the URLs which were available in the UI with all the information, with the status, and all the information needed in order to cover that specific finding. Okay, let's say you need right now to share more than a single finding. You can always select multiple findings, click on the export, and a file, an Excel file will be created, a separate Excel file will be created for each one of the findings, so it will be much easier to share with different teams, with different personnel within your organization or outside of the organization. If we are talking about notification and sharing information, I would like to show you additional options that we have right now within Hyver. You need to go to the settings, okay, and go to the notification. Here, we enables you to define as many rules as you would like in order to notify people within your organization about the new findings. For example, right now, I would like to share, okay, I would like to send notification just for the network team on critical findings. Let's give them critical and high severity findings. Okay, I'm going to do that on finding. The event will be new findings. Clicking on next. We spoke about critical and high. Okay, if I would like, I can send it on all the severity. On each type of severity, I can add more, but here I would like to focus only on critical and high. And we spoke about, I would like to inform only the network team, so they will care only about network level security, all the findings with the security domain network level. Of course, you can create much more general rules. Here I'm clicking next. Right now, I decided to send them an email, okay? But in a few seconds, we will speak about the options to ServiceNow because the same mechanism will be used for ServiceNow. You can also define specific rules, either the same rules or specific rules to ServiceNow. You can decide if you would like to share all the findings with IDSM. You can decide that you can share only selected findings with ITSM, since only the identity management team working on that, only application team is working on that. You would like to share only specific severity. Here right now, I would like to send Karen an email since she's the owner of the network, everything related to the network, and I would like only her. But I can select as many people as I would like. Okay, it's up to me. And next, here I can see a summary, okay, that tells me exactly the name, the entity, the event, the severity, the domain, the methods that I selected. Right now I selected only email and click done. I can always send test email to make sure that the people that I wanted to, so they will get an email, they really get an email. It's not a must. But if for some reason someone doesn't get an email, you can always check it and close. And here I can see all my rules, all the conditions based on which methods, which event. And it can also include ServiceNow and email. If we're talking about integration with ServiceNow, I heard from many of our customers that their IT team are using ITSM, and therefore we integrated with ServiceNow. Clicking on integration, here you will see the ServiceNow. I know that in few seconds, it happens also in the previous webinar. Some of our customers asked us about Jira. Yes, Jira will follow ServiceNow. I don't have a commitment date yet, but this is something that we are working on and really would like to have an integration with, because basically right now ServiceNow and Jira are the most popular ones, at least within our customers. So all you need to do is to click on the ServiceNow. There is a manual, okay? You don't need to remember whatever I'm saying right now in the webinar. Just need to remember that there is ServiceNow configuration and the concept, but you have here, you can download a very detailed manual PDF that covers also the Hyver part and the ServiceNow part. So you will know exactly what to define in our system and go to ServiceNow and do the same steps. ServiceNow right now supports two types of integration, one using a token and the other they're using basic authentication. We are supporting this two of them, okay? We also enables you to map specific fields available within ServiceNow, at least the mandatory ones, or who should be the caller within the ticket, to which group we should assign it, what is the impact when sending things from Hyver, which category you would like to see it in ServiceNow, the urgency. ServiceNow supports 3 levels of urgency. We support 4. So we give you the options to play with the mapping. For example, you can say, okay, critical and high will be mapped to high within ServiceNow, medium to medium. You can also say, okay, critical is going to be mapped into high, high and mediums are going to map into medium. It's up to you to decide. ServiceNow, the ticket also contains subcategory. Please let us know if you would like to use exactly the security domains within ServiceNow, and therefore you will have to define those subcategories within ServiceNow. You can also use ServiceNow subcategories. Just tell us to which value to map between our subcategory to the subcategory available within ServiceNow. One of the biggest challenges that we have with integration in general and integration with ServiceNow is the fact that you can define as many custom fields as you would like. Sometimes the custom fields are mandatory, and we need to know what needs to be sent when you define the custom fields. So here on the bottom, you have the ability to define a custom fields and tell us which value to select. For example, you have custom field 1, okay? Tell us as part of the API to send that field and tell us that you need that to transfer the value 1. But in custom field 2, okay, the system tells us if you use the same field twice, you need to transfer that specific value as a default. And of course, you can define as many custom fields as you would like. You can delete them, update them, and we will transfer that specific value when we create the ticket in ServiceNow. As part of the integration, we plan also to support the integration with Okta and additional sources for managing users and passwords, so you won't need to manage it in multiple places. So right now we covered 3 different ways to share information, either via export of Excel, via notification of an email, via integration with ServiceNow. You have also an ability to share assets using also export. You can decide if you would like to export everything, if you would like to export only specific domains and things like that. Click and mark whatever you want to export. Click on the export asset, and you can share also asset as part of the activity and with other departments. I would like to share with you also a glance, before a glance to the future, we will cover also the risk dashboard. While working with SAI, okay, we reveal the graph, the mitigation graph, and we have the attack routes. Using the attack routes and the mitigation graph, we can calculate the likelihood that an attacker would be able to get into a specific business asset. So while working with us, we need you to provide us the impact per business asset. This is something that right now you can do with us hand in hand. In the near future, we're going to provide it, we're going to calculate it automatically, and we will do a different session about it. If there is a specific customer who is interested in one-on-one or how we calculate the impact, just send me an email and I will be more than happy to do that with you. So you can provide us the impact and the likelihood. If you don't want to use money, we can also enable you to define levels, extremely high, very high, high, and we know how to translate it into the exposure. So here you can see the exposure within of the organization based on business asset. And here you can see also the trade between impact and likelihood. Of course, business asset that resides in that area, okay, high likelihood, high impact, those are the business assets that you need to cover very fast. And afterwards, those two areas. Also, you can present to the management which threats apply to which business assets. For example, you can show that external attacker that starts from the internet can compromise, can take over the customer's information, business continuity, sensitive data, and this way they will have a sense of which business assets is exposed to which trend without getting into the detailed information of the mitigation graph. But you can leverage on the mitigation graph by showing them which effort and cost you need to invest in order to remove those lines. So when presenting to the management, to the board, and they understand the cost and effort and exposure language, they are less into security details. This dashboard can help you expose the current status and use it in order to gain more resources and budget for the next year. And now I'm going to share with you some information about the future, what the future will bring. Let's jump on all those and give you a glance to the future. One thing that we would like to provide you is ability to view assets and all the issues relevant to that specific asset. Let's say I'm responsible for specific assets and I'm working one by one. And when I'm working on a specific one, I want in one transaction to handle all the relevant issues so I will be able to see it. You will be able to assign an owner, okay, an owner to each one of the assets, and the owner of the assets based on configuration can be also the owner of the remediation assets, of everything that needs to be fixed related to that specific asset. You will get a very detailed information, same as before, about the findings and the assets, but this gives you a different, this will support a different way of working. Instead of taking one finding and handling all the assets, you can go by working on assets that already compromised by us and fix everything. Or if someone is responsible for a specific asset, tell him to fix everything. This is a different angle. Another topic that we would like to enhance is the fact that we would like to express a summary of everything related to assets, okay? To let you know that you have new assets that we reveal along the time, and how many of those to share, which types to share, how many of those are vulnerable, what is the distribution around the globe, how is the vulnerable assets when it comes to ownership of departments or in specific persons, and more. During today's session, you raised multiple questions, so I'm going to read them and show them within the application. Some of you ask, how can I assign findings to a person and not just remediation? You can assign findings to a person by clicking on the checkboxes and the edit. You will be able to assign to provide an owner, change the status based on the activity, and also include also remediation date. When do you expect them to finish the assignment and all the aspects related to that specific findings? And also share comments with the team, a summary of your discussions, what you agreed on. If someone is stuck or already checked multiple things, you can add it to the comments as well. Additional question which was raised is, when we show the risk dashboard, how can I see the cost and the effort? You can see the cost and the effort as part of the mitigation planner. For example, right now I would like to know how much it will going to cost me to handle all the critical 2 blocks. Based on the information that I included in the findings, the system will calculate the effort and the cost of all the findings selected. Of course, if you will create your own mitigation plan and include it within the planner will take the relevant cost of effort of the finding that you selected and update it accordingly. So when presenting to the management, you can create multiple plans, you can save different plans, and come and say if you would like us to handle, for example, customer privacy. We can see all the routes available to there, and just the cost for handling that will be 6 million and 70 days of work to cover only the customer privacy violation, to make sure that it's being covered and reduce the risk of that specific business asset. So thank you very much for joining today's session. As I said, we are going to do that on every release. We are currently releasing a version between a month or month and a half. It depends on the content. So we're going to publish and send you an email about the next training session. If you have ideas that you would like to share with me, if you have usability challenge, if you would like to raise a request, please send me an email, okay? I cannot promise that everything that's being raised by customers will be entered as soon as possible, but I can surely assure you that I will do everything that I can in order to push requests that comes from daily work and can help your life much, much easier. So I would like to thank you for taking the time to take part within our first training sessions. Thank you.